Hello, Broadway fans. We are here, our Tony trio of Gold Derby. We have David Buchanan and Susan Haskins-Doloff joining me to discuss our final predictions for the, as we can see with my my ode to Patti LuPone, the musical categories. This is for Best Musical. We'll start there before we get into Miss Patti. A Strange Loop has been out front for a lot of this season. Michael R. Jackson is, I think, one of the biggest breakout stars, but is it secure there? I think there's probably other shows that are a bit more commercial, I think, and that's the argument that a lot of people have when they predict something else like Six or another one of the nominees. David, is there anything that's going to spoil A Strange Loop's night?
I don't think so. I think there are a lot of very strong musicals in the category. So, I don't mean to undersell anything else. It's a very strong year for original musicals. Six is huge. I mean, in every way, Six is huge. Girl from the North Country, is the little engine that could. It keeps coming back. It has an audience. It's a beautiful show. MJ is huge. I mean, there's all these shows have appeal, but I don't think there's anything quite like A Strange Loop. And I think they do want to recognize the artistic achievement. And they've done so before. The band's visit was not the most commercial, compared to Mean Girls and SpongeBob, but they said, this is the kind of artistic achievement of the season. And I think it's going to be a very similar case here.
Yes, The Strange Loop is by far the most powerful work of art. And then you ask yourself, what does best, it is best musical. So although the producers rule our world, what is the most likely to succeed if you take it to your theater in Seattle and only have to get 6 actresses and these snappy costumes? That probably would win because more people are likely to put that show on in their theaters, in the road people. But Six is by far the most magnificent work of art, and not to take anything away from anybody else.
I think Six is interesting because Six feels like a lot of shows we've seen that are hugely successful, but don't necessarily directly appeal to the demographic that is the Tony voters. And so I think even though Six will probably be the longest running show on here, it could very well be, like The Wicked of its season that
you can go forever.
Yeah. The album is certainly smashing records and doing really well. It's insanely popular and making a lot of money, but I'm not sure it's what the Tony voters are really into. Strangely, I have heard a lot of huge enthusiasm for MJ, which I'm not sure can actually win because not only does it have the controversies around Michael Jackson, which will make some people hesitant, but it's also a jukebox musical. And we just haven't had, it took a pandemic year where they were forced to vote for a jukebox musical with Moulin Rouge because there were no original musicals nominated. It took that situation for them to reward another one with this title, which is not to say jukebox shows can't win other categories, but I think when it comes to best musical, there is a hesitancy to give that stamp to something that is just like someone's catalog.
It is MJ, which I had not seen when I criticized it last time we met, but it's so well crafted on many fronts, magnificently designed. That guy, which we'll talk about later, the book that Lynn Knott is so skillfully put together. There's so much going on, but still in all, as you say, and also going back to that, A Strange Loop is the guts of this creator trying to deal with the truth of his life, whereas the flip side is MJ, where they're very artfully doing everything they can so they can make this profitable show selling this music that people love, but it's not touching us with the truth of the matter. They mention his drug abuse and they do stuff, but as you said, it's a jukebox musical. It's not the best. And the Tony voters, you have the responsibility to pick the best.
Yeah. And I do think A Strange Loop stands out as something we have never seen before. It's told from a perspective that is not told on Broadway very often, or really ever, frankly. And I think its uniqueness, it just feels special and it feels of the moment. And it has a lot of famous producers who have come aboard and are touting it all.
Wisely. And he said, Usher, our main character, says, I want to say what it's like to travel the world in a fat, black, queer body. And then he's discussing that. And then you have MJ, where you're dealing with, there's
Let's
the
go
flip
there, but
side.
not go
Somebody
there.
dealing with life in a completely opposite way of, let's not deal with so many things, but because the music's magnificent. And it is.
Yeah. Well, revival of a musical, we've had Company out front for a long time. Do we think anything? I think, I don't know if we can tell, but I think it's pretty much out front. I have heard a lot of latecomers to the season who are actually enjoying The Music Man quite a lot. And I think it fills a certain void of, the classic Golden Age show. But I think in a year when we just lost Sondheim and Marianne Elliott has such a clear, distinct vision for this show that we haven't seen before, I'm not sure the other two will have enough to overtake it.
What about Caroline or Change?
I loved that production, but I think I'm worried that people will see it more as the Sharon D. Clarke vehicle rather than loving the overall production.
Well, Marianne Elliott is a god to me, but I did not get this Company. It was, I keep, I saw the original Company, and which what meant so much to me. And this one, I did, and the design was great, but I didn't understand it. And the other thing, and the only other thing I want to put out there, because Christina Lenk wasn't nominated to talk about her character.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that in almost every scene, Bobby, the protagonist, is drinking? And they made it this, which was not the case, And she's just drinking and drinking and drinking. And so I'm watching this and saying, well, what's her problem? She's, in other words, whereas the problem of the original Bobby was a much more subtle psychological thing, which you could write PhD treatises on what's going on with that character. But I didn't get that in this one. And thus, I agree with you, it's going to win, but I would much rather see Caroline or Change get it.
I think if Caroline or Change had opened in the spring, we may have more of a race, in part for what you're saying, Susan. And also, I think it would have maybe had more nominations too, but it didn't get a lot of nominations, which, we can't really hold it against it when it goes to the general and much larger voting pool. But I just think the fact that Company is open, Sondheim, this is the last kind of production that Sondheim had input in, he gave it his blessing and helped to shape it. I think for those reasons, and I think it's very deserving. So I think it will win.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
And it just seems like everyone who is beloved on Broadway is in it, whether they're nominated or not. When you think about the people who have put this together, from Marianne Elliott, even the non-nominated cast members like Christopher Fitzgerald, Chris Sieber, it's it's an incredible group of people that I think have worked with everyone.
Although there were some very wonderful people in Caroline or Change as well. But no, you're right. Many beloved people. Caroline or Change was not designed well, which kept it out of some categories. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't on the level of whatever that set was for Company was supposed to be telling me was happening, where she's going up and down the levels.
Oh, you didn't like that? I thought that was great. It was like Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, but what did that have to do with it? I didn't get it. I didn't get it. Because, and the problem is because this was a musical I thought so much about. I've seen two other revivals and I didn't get that's the thing. And again, I want to say again, Marianne Elliott is a god to me. She directed The Curious Incident, which is probably the greatest thing I've ever seen. All right.
Well, we should to keep it going, we should move into director, because Marianne Elliott has been out front for this whole season. And yet now in the last stretch, I'm seeing all this surge for Stephen Brackett of A Strange Loop. And it is true that this category, director of a musical, often goes to a new work, more often than not. There have been people who have helmed revivals that have won, but usually a new work does take it. Do we think that's the case this year? Is A Strange Loop going to snatch it out from under Marianne Elliott?
Yes.
Yes. Dave, well, you didn't appreciate, you weren't the biggest company fan. David, what do you think?
Well, here's my hesitation. I totally agree, Sam, that the conversation is moving. It's not a slam dunk. You know, it really is a genuine race. I think what helps Marianne, and she's still my prediction, I haven't changed yet. But I think what helps is this is not just a revival, this is a reimagined company. To Susan's point, you know, this is not the 1970 production or even the John Doyle production, which took liberties, but, you know, was company. This is almost a new show using the original book and the original score. And I think that helps. The fact that it's distinguished by the fact of how much, you know, she was involved in shaping not just a kind of vision for the existing show, but kind of creating, you know, an entirely new company. So that helps versus, you know, to the point of, well, you know, new works usually win here. This is kind of a new work in a lot of ways.
That's an interesting
So David,
point.
did you see, of course, you did not see it in 1968, but have you seen other productions of company?
I have.
Doyle probably, right?
Yeah, I saw the Doyle. Yeah, I did see Doyle. I didn't see the original, unfortunately.
With this, you're going, oh, I get that, Flip. I get that. That did you feel? Did it resonate with you? They went, oh, well, of course, that's the same. I mean, that's also different, and blah blah blah.
This company, the new company, you mean? Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks. Yeah, I mean, I certainly liked it more than you did, Susan.
Everybody did.
No, but I just think whether or not, I mean, obviously, if the changes don't resonate with you, you probably won't vote for Marianne Elliott. So that maybe is a sign that she might not win this race. But I do just think, you know, this is not just kind of let's bring back company and let's just make, you know, the nicest possible production of it possible. This is a total reimagining of an existing work.
And when we look at like what wins, we often talk about, well, you have to think of the most obvious work. And to me, Marianne has the most obvious directorial vision of any of these pieces. It just, whether or not it resonates, I guess, it just stands out the most as a director's show to me. And so I'm having a hard time straying from her in this category, but it's also hard to ignore that suddenly all these folks seem to be going to Stephen Brackett.
But think of all that was going on in A Strange Loop. And then, you know, and then it goes into the Tyler Perry show and all the levels and also the conception of the way they portrayed the parts of his mind. To me, that direction goes above. Have I said it before? Marianne Elliott was a god to me. Goes above that for this one. You can't have it every year, Marianne. Maybe she can, but you know, she does. She'll be okay.
Marianne, Susan's going to write you a nice note after this.
I love her. I've interviewed her. I love her. She's so brilliant.
Well, if Strange Loop, let's continue on the Strange Loop thread right now, because it's also become the front runner for both score and book. But I'm also looking at those two categories and wondering if there will be a split, because 6 is a huge success. Will they want it to win something major? Maybe. And this could be the only place it does. It's certainly the catchiest music out there. I think it's the CD, you know, the album has blown up. And then with book, Lynn Nottage, I mean, how many people, especially how many Black women in this industry can you name who had 3 concurrent productions running on a New York stage? The list is probably just Lynn Nottage, I believe. So will they want to reward the 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner somewhere? Does she sneak in for best book for MJ? What do we think? Do we think either of those have a shot in these categories?
You see my face? Go ahead.
What does your face tell us,
Lynn
Susan?
Nottage, again, I'm use this word brilliant. I'm throwing it around, but Lynn Nottage, Sweat, that incredible one before about the African women.
Ruined.
Blew me away. Yep. This is, and there's nothing wrong with that, her big money job. She very artfully dealt with the problem of writing this thing. That's great. But, and that's great, but I'm not going to say, oh, well, she did third, and she did a third. I'm going to give it to her for that. No, I'm going to give it to A Strange Loop, which is this incredible invention, this new, powerfully honest invention, an honest book.
Yeah, and Michael R. Jackson has been everywhere too. He's just been doing a tremendous job, I think, on the circuit this season of being out there and also letting people get to know him, I think, which helps.
I'm not even, to me, it's how did I walk out of the show?
Mm-hmm.
Where was my mind when I'm walking out of the show? I'm walking out of MJ and going, well, they pulled it off. That's pretty good. Love that set. That guy's great. I said before, but Strange Loop, I'm walking down the street going, oh, that's theater. This is why I give my life to work in the theater, because there's a Strange Loop. That's,
yeah.
And maybe others thought that.
I do think the race for score is the tighter race between Strange Loop and Six. My hesitation, and I had Six for a very long time, and I have Strange Loop now, is, are you going to vote for Strange Loop in Best Musical, maybe Best Director, Best Book, and not award it Best Score? Like, I do feel like the score is so, obviously it's a musical. The score is so integral, but I find it hard to believe that you're going to vote for it in many other categories as the best musical and not awarded score.
Yeah, and score, as we were talking about Jukebox shows not having as good of a chance because Best Musical is really tied to Best Score. It's like, what score are we lifting up in the canon when people look back at the list of Best Musical winners? So I do think that it's just, I had the same thing as you, David. I had Six out front for a while, but I just think, again, Six might appeal to a younger set of audience members. And we've seen that before with like Title of Show, I think appealed to a younger set of audience members, and they threw it a bone with a nomination, said, here's your one nomination, but that's not really what we're going for.
Although, not that we're doing this, but Title of Show was a vastly superior work to Six. But I do think that A Strange Loop will take score. Now it's unfair. I saw Six right before COVID happened, that long ago, and I did not buy the album. I don't remember any song. I remember the thing. I remember it. I remember what it looked like. I remember those costumes. Not to jump ahead, but that's where it's going to get a prize. But the only song I remember from the whole season is Usher, Usher, and going from there. That's the score that meant something to me. That's still in my.
I think Six has the catchy hooks because I listen to the Six album quite a lot.
And
Adriana Hicks plays on repeat in my earbuds every day.
And it means a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's move to actress because this one I think is Sharon D. Clarke's to win, but she also has not. The show's been closed. Carolina Change has been closed. So does Joaquina somehow come out front? Is this the only thing that Paradise Square is going to win? It's kind of like, I see them as the front runners, and it's kind of the battle of the epic 11 o'clock numbers. They both have these just powerhouse sing to the rafters numbers. Is anyone switching from Sharon?
Here's Joaquina, what a talent. But here's the difference for me. When I saw Joaquina do her 11 o'clock number, Let It Burn, and she's so intense, and the book got me a little confused about what her position was on the situation that made her sing Let It Burn right before that number came out, but that's funny. But she's singing the song and she's weeping and doing it, and I'm sitting there looking, thinking, wow, that is really something. And look, now she's weeping. She's so great. Wow. But I remember seeing Sharon D. Clarke, a powerhouse. I'm weeping, I'm weeping. I'm watching her. I'm completely consumed by what she's doing. And the show ends, I'm devastated. I'm falling apart. And some of it, the show, but that performance, she's a force of nature. Joaquina was really, really good. But it was the difference. This to me is the difference between the number one performance and the number two. Am I sitting there appreciating it or judging it, which is too bad. But with her, I was appreciating it. Or am I in it? Am I with it? Am I being carried by it?
Yeah, I
And that's
just,
true.
one thing I wonder about with it, in addition to the recency factor, in addition to that, I think at the Tonys, what we should never underestimate is the hometown advantage, the home field advantage. We saw like Bertie Carvel came over and did Matilda, but did not win for that. It took him to
Who beat him? I forget.
oh, who did beat him? I'm too steeped in this season to think about past ones, but it took him to come back again to do Ink to actually win the Tony. And I think people were very thrilled to have Sharon D. Clarke finally come over from the UK. She's a formidable performer, but Joaquina has, she has this sort of rising star narrative, and this could be the moment they say, well, we're going to crown the new rising star of Broadway. So
and Ethel Merman did not win for Gypsy.
Right.
I'm just wondering, I think it is between the two, Sam, I totally agree. I'm just wondering, are we overestimating the strength of Paradise Square based on the nominations it received? When it goes to the general, big pool of voters, I don't know. I don't think you, even though, Caroline or Change closed in January, I think, I don't think you forget Lot's Wife. I think
No.
it stays with you. That's something that even though it's in the kind of recent past, it's still, present in mind.
It's remarkable. Yeah, it's absolutely remarkable. Well, let's shift over to lead actor. We've had Jaquel Spivey out front for a long time, but I am hearing that when the road voters were in, the road presenters, he missed a lot of performances during that week, which means—
Then they can't vote in the category.
Yeah. If they're on the honor system.
No, but that works in his favor, because if they miss him, they can't vote.
Right, but again, that's the point, that they can vote on the show.
Yes, yes.
Portal does not automatically take, if you missed the thing, the portal will not automatically take.
Oh, all right, well then he has a problem.
So that could be a problem for him. Will they vote just based on seeing an understudy? I don't know. But the problem is, if they're not voting for Jaquel, who I think should win it, it's a remarkable role. What he does is rarely seen in a musical, but who is the benefactor if they're not voting for him? Is it Miles Frost? Is it Hugh Jackman? David, who do you think is in second place there?
I think Miles Frost is definitely in second. MJ, we are hearing a lot of really strong buzz about MJ. Like the number of nominations is not kind of misleading. Like the passion for the show is there. The passion for the performance is definitely there. I'm not sure. I do think we should have some pause about, are the voters able to see these performances? I think that's a really good question. Is it enough for me to kind of move away from the front runner who deserves to win? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm ready to make a switch.
Yeah. And
I also wouldn't, oh, sorry, Sam. I was just gonna say, I also, based on what you said earlier, I know he's won before, and I know it's not like his best role on Broadway, but I think Hugh Jackman is no worse than third position in the race.
Oh, I have him in third too. People, I think The Music Man did not get the sort of like rapturous reviews that Hello Dolly got, which is what people were expecting because of the team involved. But it still, there were some people who maybe didn't care for it, but it overall got okay reviews. But the industry people that, are in my circle at least, are really enjoying it. I don't find people who are like, I think they're sitting there really enjoying it. And Hugh has been an incredible kind of Broadway spokesperson. Both him and Sutton have been
major
great,
star.
Spokespeople to have as Broadway comes back from the pandemic, which is no small thing, I think, when we're looking at the optics of everything. So Hugh is definitely getting votes.
Now, I was just looking up the league answer to the, can they vote on the performer thing, but so I didn't mean to be rude. I was looking that up. The thing about Miles Frost is then this will be the third year that a celebrity impersonator has won the best performer role. And really, as Broadway slides downhill to becoming, Branson or whatever it is. Is that really? I mean, he's good. That guy is really good. He does the imitates. He's not really impersonating. He doesn't look like Michael Jackson because he has a nose.
Well, but that's always how
look,
awards races go. It's not just the Tonys, it's the Oscars, it's the Emmys, it's the transformative role. It's an easy thing.
We're talking about the Tony Awards. We're talking about the Tony Awards, which is a cut above. And the thing is it really, are we going to say best yet again somebody who's portraying, who is impersonating, not badly, but it's, you know, we share, help me, Tina Turner, and now this, and I think that that's not a good statement. But again, and Jaquel is, again, I keep using this word honest, but if they see him, you know, his guts out there, that's just, maybe that's why he can't do 2 performances a day now. It's so intense what he's doing. Miles is great, he's going somewhere, but it's doing somebody else. It's not making his own work.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think the voters think that way, though. I really don't. We've seen the examples of that, you know, Jesse Mueller, Stephanie J. Block, and I think they'd look at that as an acting success, because it's an easy way, especially if you're not even a person who has a background as an actor. It's an easy way to see, oh, that person did a good job because I can totally buy them as this real life figure I know.
Or as faux Michael Jackson, yes.
Yeah.
Now, Hugh Jackman, I think he's in third as well, but I liked him a lot better than a lot of people did. And he certainly is such a magnificent performer. What can you say? I don't know if people will suddenly switch over to that. Well, Jaquel is number one, but yeah, as you say, it's a big problem that he's missed so many performances.
And just to note too, that he's on like a medical, like it's a medical rest. He's not just missing performances, because he has bad attendance. Just to
right.
We're just saying him, but everyone has missed performances this season. True. Miles Frost missed a ton of performances about maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. So I'm just looking at Jaquel because it's happening right now, and I know what happened when the 100 road voters were in. Yeah. But plenty of voters might have missed other people too, because COVID waves have come through, and it's been very difficult.
Yeah. Who else is on there? Let's look again.
Well, let's keep it moving because we got to run through these categories. So let's go to some easy ones, which is featured actress, an actor in a musical, which I think Company will run away with Patti LuPone and Matt Doyle.
Yes.
Anyone have any opinions to the contrary? I think there's a slight chance that John Andrew Morrison could take it. He has a bit more to do maybe than Matt Doyle's character in Company. With Matt Doyle, it's really about getting married today, which is such one of the best numbers of the season. But when
John Andrew Morrison plays his mother, when he gets a thing, I play that is to me that was the much more important performance. But again, I agree with you that Matt Doyle will win for his very wonderful rendition of that beloved song.
It's about the moments, the moments that stick out. And I think both Matt and Patty have the key moments there for Company to pick up. Well, we were talking about some MJ and Music Man pretty heavily before, which is, I think those two shows are going to go head to head in choreography with Christopher Wheeldon and Warren Carlyle. Right now I have Christopher Wheeldon out front, just because I think the scene that will do it for him is that moment where it's so smart, where he brings the legends out, and you see how Michael Jackson crafted his whole movement language by picking up things from Bob Fosse and from Fred Astaire, and it's really perfectly constructed. The flip side, the challenger, I think, is Warren Carlyle, who no one in the Music Man stops moving for the entire time. It is really classic, hyper-specific Broadway dance storytelling.
Too bad it's not a dance show.
Well, it is now.
Well, it is now, and to me, and to the detriment of at the end when the boys are supposed to be able to sort of play. And as Peter Marks said, they spent too much time at the River City Gym. Then not only one child could play, only one child could play, really play an instrument. But to me, there was too much dance in that show. And I know it's because Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster are tappers, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, the MJ is a dance show, and I think that should get the prize.
David, what are you going with?
Agree, MJ.
MJ. Christopher Wheeldon, maybe prepare for another accepted speech. Who knows?
Can we talk about design? Can we talk about
Yes, we
design?
can. Well, let's hop in, because I also, speaking of MJ, I think that's actually a dark horse for scenic design, where everyone has had Company, and Company is probably going to win, I think. It has maybe the most obvious, but when you watch MJ, I mean, the Thriller sequence alone, where they create a set out of the Dangerous album, is pretty ridiculous. Susan, are you thinking that could pull ahead?
I am 100% for MJ there. Derek McLean set and Peter Negrini projections. My favorite was when at the end of Act 1, when he's fielding all this criticism, and they designed it that I can't even describe it, that there's all these bits of gossip that are pieces flying in it like knives,
and like the shards of glass,
with projections of the National Enquirer stories. So that design was breathtaking, and again, the Company one was certainly hip and with it, but I didn't completely understand what it was telling me.
David, did you understand the Company design? Are you going for that one?
I have Company. I do think, the way that the boxes, the kind of claustrophobia, I mean, it really is so tied to the themes of the piece. And I just think, I could see arguments for why it might not win, but I do think it is out front, and I'm going to stick with it.
Well, let's look at another design category. Lighting, for me, which is not like usually a category that everyone discusses as the most sexy category here, but I could make a case for honestly all 6 of the nominees in lighting design. I think it's really hard to rank them. This is actually, I think, out of all the Tony categories, it's the hardest one for me to rank. I have Company in front just because it's been kind of the default front runner there, but I think MJ has great lighting. I think Flying Over Sunset is nominated here, which means everyone will have actually seen it, and that had very impressive lighting. Susan, what are you going with?
I agree with you.
With which one?
Company,
With
I think it's
Company?
going to go to Company. I think
Yeah.
there's many strong things, and I think it's going to go to Company.
David,
Best use of neon lighting. Best
use of neon.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. I mean, it's funny, but it is memorable, right? Like
Yes.
I mean, and Marianne uses neon a lot. So it's very of her kind of aesthetic, but it's so memorable. The Letters Company, the NYC, it's very, the lighting is very, very memorable in Company. So I have it out front too, but Sam, I could as you're saying, I could easily see another show. It's kind of my lack of able to discern, what voters might do, that I say, well, Company has a clear case, but it could go to something else. I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
Yeah. Well, I often think, I try to put myself in a voter's shoes, because like I don't have a background in lighting. I come from an acting background, but I have no idea about what constitutes, what goes into lighting.
Right.
And so it just is about those moments that are obvious to me that stand out. And I can really find those moments in every single one. I mean, A Strange Loop, when you look at if you look on Gold Derby in our prediction center, the logo for A Strange Loop is built off of the lighting design with that purple and orange kind of sunset hues. That's the final piece of the play, and it's that memorable they used it in their marketing. So that could be a great contender too. I'm really not sure how to, maybe the neon of Company is the most obvious work, so I guess we'll stay there. Susan, you mentioned before that you thought 6 was going to win costume design. You think that
I come out singing the costumes.
That's the tagline they're going to put on the marquee, Susan.
I mean, those costumes were great. Reinterpreting the Tudor or costumes as modern little kick dresses or whatever they are. That was to me the strongest, the most memorable thing in that production, and I think that will win.
I've had that out front for a while. I just switched to The Music Man because sometimes what they do is vote for like most costumes, and the Music Man certainly has the most of them.
It had a
whereas
lot of
Six-
costumes. Yep.
Six just has the 6 of them. There's really, maybe they put something on during House of Holbein, but they're really just in their one costume the whole time. And I
And
wonder
Jane-
if that holds them back.
Jane Hootie, we haven't done her category. Oh, we did do her category. She's going to be whooped by Patty Pone.
Title Pone.
But what is it for everybody? But for instance, with Jane Hootie, the way they costumed her and all these things, the crazy costumes that they came up with. But maybe the fact that the costumes were more spare in 6, and I wasn't overwhelmed by all these other Music Man as costumes is why I remember them so powerfully and would vote for that.
And also those looks, especially some of those looks for the new Music Man, are very memorable. At especially the curtain call look, very kind of like, I've seen it so much, and it's very striking, I think.
But that curtain call look has been done before.
Yeah.
Well, and
Well, you're talking about the same people who nominated ragtime costumes that have been done before, so that doesn't always matter.
But if we're going to talk about quantity of costumes, then we have to give it to Diana the musical.
Oh God, let's not. Let's not say we did. With that, I'm going to move over to sound design, because I think I have 6 over in sound design. It just has like such a wall of sound. Although by that logic, I think MJ is certainly the loudest musical I've maybe ever heard in that theater. It really is like going to a concert. David, are you going for either one of those? Or are you picking something else?
I have 6, but I'm a bit lost here. And if I don't have 6 in costume design, which I don't, this is the only thing I have 6 winning, which is kind of hard to believe. If you had told me back when 6 opened and in the fall that it would win 1, I would predict it for only 1 Tony. I would say you're kidding me. But I do have 6 here, but I'm a little bit unsure about this category too. To your point, Sam, the sound design of some of these other musicals is very well done. To my ear anyway, as you said, not as a trained technician, but I'm not quite sure.
I am not trained in music per se, and don't have that great an ear. But I have had people say to me, that sound design of Strange Loop, you cannot hear the voice that well.
I've heard that too.
The thing. And then somebody pointed out to me one of the longest chains ever on all that chat. Somebody sent it to me, denouncing the sound design of A Strange Loop. So this is the only thing that I can go on to say, well, that's not good.
Yeah. That was one thing that was surprising. That was the only qualm I had with the entire production, to be honest, because it wasn't a problem at Playwrights Horizons. But I think this will be, the concert setting of 6 will serve it here in this category.
I agree.
To quickly finish up, we're going to try to tackle quickly the hardest one to me, I think, which is Orchestrations.
Oh.
Yes.
Which is always kind of a toss-up. Company is leading our odds on Gold Derby, but I have skirted away from that, and I'm going to A Strange Loop, because if you look at the history of this category, it more often than not features an original musical wins. Actually, only 2 revivals have won, which complicates things because the only 2 revivals that have won are Assassins and Company, John Doyle's Company, which are other Sondheim shows. And so maybe that speaks to the fact that Sondheim will prevail here again. But I think the new sound of A Strange Loop will take this as part of its sweep. They often kind of pick up a Best Musical winner here.
I just was going with the previously stated Sondheim sentimentality, thinking that it was going to go to Company. But of course, I would be delighted for. Well, I think they're all previously and Girl from North Country, which I don't think is going to take anything, but that had very innovative orchestration of Bob Dylan music, something very, very different. And if someone was looking at that, something very imaginative. Well,
I've been burned before by trying to pick the innovative thing here, because I thought Oklahoma would have taken it for that revival when they reconstructed it as bluegrass. And I thought, well, surely a group of people, musicians will go for that. Nope, they didn't. They went with the best musical winner. So I'm deciding I'm trying not to be burned this year, and I'm going with the best musical winner. David, is that what you're doing too?
I have company. The only reason I have company right now is I think even in comparison to the 2018, the West End production of this, the orchestrations are so much fuller. The sound is so much richer, I think, than even, the previous Marianne Elliott production, that I just think that they'll resonate. But I could be, I predicted Oklahoma too. So I could be, I'm going to miss the mark on this one again, perhaps.
No, but with company, with company, they gave it their all in terms of the instruments and giving it Sondheim, and because when they were doing it, he was still alive and they thought he would be there to appreciate it, giving him everything he would have wanted. And that means a great deal.
Yes, well, we'll have to see what happens. If you're out there watching, log in your predictions and see if you can hit the mark or miss the mark, and see if you do better than the three of us when it comes time to announce those winners. So make your predictions now. And David and Susan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Sam.